when I think about my own experiences at NC State, I think about all the fun and I certainly think about some struggles, but most importantly, I really think about the friends, the faculty, and the staff who helped create for me a sense of belonging before a sense of belonging was an actual thing. So tonight we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to have a bit of a fireside chat where our panelists will share a little bit about their experiences. They'll share some about the importance of community and fellowship and mentoring as they navigated the campus, either as students or faculty. And then we'll close the session really talking about what they're most hopeful for as they think about NC State's future. So we have about an hour tonight together, which is not nearly enough time. So let's dive in. So to each of our panelists, I'd like to welcome you to the Leaders Leaving Legacies panel session tonight. And thanks so much for agreeing to share your experiences with us tonight. So we're really looking forward to hearing your reflections, but I think before we get started into diving into the questions, I would love for each of you to introduce yourself. So just please state your name, anything that you'd like to share with our alums and friends. And then most importantly, I'd like you to be sure to share the first year that you were introduced to NC State. So why don't we start with you, Pat?
Awesome. Good evening, everyone. My name is Pat Gaddy. I am the current chair of the NC State Staff Senate. The Staff Senate, if you don't know, is the voice for the university staff community. And I am excited to be here tonight to participate in this panel discussion, Leaders Leaving Legacies. And I'm honored to be in such company as we have here tonight, telling our stories with the Black Alumni Society. I just want to say that my introduction to NC State was probably, and it's probably going to sound a little different than my partners here tonight, but I was introduced to NC State in 1991 as a permanent staff employee by way of the campus laundry. Yep, believe it or not, 30 years ago, there was a dry cleaners and a laundry here on campus. You could actually drop your laundry off and your dry cleaning and pick it up at the end of the day. And if you were here 30 years ago, yep, you probably saw me hanging out in the laundry. So that's how I was first introduced to NC State.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that and welcome, Pat.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then Jim, we'd love to hear from you. Would you like to introduce yourself and definitely tell us whatever you'd like to share tonight? And in what year were you introduced to NC State?
I'd be happy to, and thanks for the invitation, Sam. I'm honored to participate in this panel. I arrived at NC State in the fall of 1966, about 54 years ago.
All right.
I think the civil rights bills that passed in the 60s generated a lot of opportunities for us. And I was at Hillsides in Durham. We had very strong science and math programs. I was fortunate to have 2 years of calculus when I got to NC State, which helped my grade point average a lot as I suffered through tough courses like English and history and things that were really tough. I didn't know much about NC State. Our guidance counselor went to work and found slots for a lot of the students to attend the traditionally white universities. And those of us that were strong in math and science, she got us signed up and enrolled at NC State. And I enrolled in the mechanical engineering program. I had no idea what an engineer was back then. I had no frame of reference for it, but that's where she said I should be, and that's where I joined. So I joined in 1966, or came to school in 1966, graduated in the spring of 70 in mechanical. I came back in 2007, 35 years later, and got my MBA here at State. So I'm a dual degree person, and I appreciate being affiliated with two colleges, the College of Engineering as well as the College of Management.
Mm.
So I'll stop there and we'll talk a lot later.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Jim. So if you're splitting your time between colleges, then I'm sure you have to decide where you're going to send your money. Huh?
Well, I think they both expect both coming in both directions. So.
I'm sure they do. Thank you very much and welcome tonight. And I think we have the Elwoods on, or excuse me, the Becktons are on. Elwood and Diane, are you guys on? They were working on their connection.
Okay, I think, can you hear me now?
Yes, welcome.
Right, okay, this is Elwood Beckton. I think Diane is, I'm still at the office really, and I haven't gone home yet.
Thanks for joining us.
I guess she's up here too, I guess. How many folks do we have with us tonight? You know, Sam?
They were still coming in when we started. At the point of us starting, there were a little less than 20. So I don't know what we're up to now.
I'm showing 30. I'm showing 30 on my participants.
Oh, 30.
Really? Okay.
Thanks, Jim and Jeffrey.
All right. Well, I came in the fall of 1969.
Okay.
I came in the College of Physical and Mathematical Sciences, and I majored in computer science. And I had the honor of having two 4-year stunts here at the university. The first as a student, and the second as an employee of the university, an attorney for the university. And I graduated in 1973, and I came back in 1979 to 83. And very positive experience at NC State. Of course, one of the most positive ones is that I found my wife here, Diane, Diane Hill. And so we started dating, I think, after during the summer of our junior year, after sophomore, junior year. And so things been going great. We got 3 children, and it's been a great experience.
Fantastic. So you and Diane were state mates before state mates were a thing.
That's right. Exactly.
And I've read somewhere that when a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing.
That is so true.
So good for you.
It's in the Bible somewhere in Proverbs, I think. And I'm always quoting that verse. You know, there are some folks who are hesitant to get married these days, and so I'm always advising young men that then they go ahead and get married.
Ooh, well, I hope we can get to that a little bit later.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
What we do to impart these pearls.
Yes.
All right. So do we have Diane on yet?
Uh-oh. I should have been home to help her with this, because she told me about she just must be having trouble logging on. And
Okay.
so doggone, I hate that. But
Well, hopefully she can join us when the connection is working.
I hear you, but I can't see you.
okay.
Oh, we can definitely hear you. Welcome.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to be able to see you?
Yes.
Ideally.
At least one, anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear everybody. But anyway, since you have me and I got on, is it my time?
It is your turn. Your timing is perfect. So we would love, we would love for you to introduce yourself and then share the year that you became affiliated with NC State.
Okay. I'm Diane Hill Beckton, the better half of Elwood Beckton, who just called. We met over at NC State, just to throw that out.
Yeah.
I tried to keep him from running his program, and a lot of evenings I did. So hey, the rest is history.
Welcome.
But anyway, I first was introduced to NC State in the 11th grade of my high school, Brawley High School in Scotlandette, North Carolina. We had been getting some information through our counselor in the high school. So the summer after my junior year, my best friend's mother, who was an educator and teacher in Scotlandette, decided to take her daughter and I on a fishing tour, so to speak, to NC State and over to Carolina. And at the time, we said we had a pact that if we liked both schools, we would apply to both. And the one who got our letters back to us first, that's where we would go, no questions asked. And NC State came in a day before Carolina, and we ended up at NC State. And NC State was good to me. There were some issues, of course, by coming from an all Black high school and having some culture shock over at NC State. I don't know who shocked each other worse, me or them, but I did. I had my first roommate was a white girl from Kingston. And when I went in to put my bedspread on and my mom and everybody came, now needless to say, you know how Black folks roll up in school. We bring the mamas, the aunts, the sisters, the brothers, and everybody to your room to help hang up curtains and everything and take in bags and food. So she saw me, my supposedly roommate saw me, and when we went down to get our second load, she was gone.
Wow.
When I got back to the room, she had moved everything out. And I said, wow, that was really an interesting scenario. But I was kind of happy she had gone, because that meant I had the room by myself for a little while anyway.
Absolutely.
And that was how I got to State. And I always said, you must be active wherever you go to feel a part of. And we were always joining our Black programs, and we had the Society of African American Culture. And I know Elwood too, he was a very active person on campus, and I was too. And anytime you're active, your whole education experience goes a whole lot better.
Yeah, I completely agree. And thank you so much for that introduction. And I'm so grateful that you selected NC State instead of that school down the road whose name shall not be spoken. All right. So now that we've had a chance to, get a flavor of some of the backgrounds of our panelists, let's actually dive into our discussion tonight. And the reason that I asked each of you to share when you started at the university is because I think that's really, really important context. Just from hearing from each of you, we have, over 20 plus years each of experience on NC State's campus. And as a result, I imagine you've seen significant changes and evolution on campus in terms of what the university offers and the culture and so forth. So I just wanted to set that framework and really have the people that have dialed in understand the longevity that you all have had with the university. So let's dive in. So it's interesting because Diane kind of kicked us off a little bit. Thinking about the 20 plus, 30 plus years of experience that you've had at NC State, I would love to hear a little bit about some of your most memorable experiences. So if it's okay, I'd love to kick off with Pat again. Pat, do you just mind sharing some of your most memorable experiences at NC?
I would be happy to.
Thank
Let
you.
me think. As I told you when we started, my introduction to NC State was a little bit different than everyone else's story. I came out of dry cleaning. I was a dry cleaning plant manager. You know, I worked in the laundry, and it was a desire of mine forever to just work in an office, to have what I call a job like everybody else. You know,
Right.
I often think about all those dry cleaning filters I changed, you know, getting up early, you know, before the rest of my family, sometimes leaving before day. And I thought that that would always be the life that I
Mhm.
had. And a door opened. A friend of mine told me that there was a laundry on campus. I said, what? NC State got a laundry? You got to be kidding. I'm going to try for this job. Not thinking I would ever get it, but thank God I applied. I got it. I walked into that laundry. And that was one of my most memorable moments because it took me from a lifestyle with no benefits, nowhere to go. I was just in a stale place. And when I
Mhm.
got to the laundry, even though I was still in dry cleaning, right? I was still pressing pants, I was still doing shirts, but guess what? I had benefits. And I
Absolutely.
can remember for so many times telling my husband that, you know, he worked at a job where they had holidays off. I didn't, not in dry cleaning. You don't get those days. I said, one day my time is coming. And when I walked in there, even though it was dry cleaning, I felt like I had arrived. I really, really had. That was my first moment. But then I just have to say that it got sweeter than that. From
Do you?
that from that laundry on campus, I stayed there. I did the very best job I could.
Sure.
Believe it or not, they had an office upstairs. Never worked in an office before. But sometimes doors will open for you and you got to make your own way. You got to put your own self out there. You
Mhm.
got to empower yourself. And
Yep.
I went up there and I said, is there anything I can do? They said, absolutely. I stayed there, worked in that office in the afternoon for 3 years. I went downstairs in the morning, upstairs in the office. And 3 years later, how about the laundry shut down? There I was, not knowing where I would go work. But I just say that because of my exposure, because of my persistence, because I didn't quit, everything that I did in that office for 3 years, believe it or not, it qualified me for
I
my
believe.
first office job. And when I applied for the position and they offered me the position, that started my life. I mean, that I was really born. I really came alive here at NC State. I gotta say, NC State has been great for me. I never thought from a dry cleaning laundry
Mhm.
that I will be chair of the NC State Staff Senate 30
Yes, ma'am.
years later. It doesn't, that things like that just doesn't happen by accident. You got to work at it, you got to want it, you got to go for it. And I did. And I look back on two of those experiences that I truly have to say was two of my most memorable moments here at NC State University. Thank you
Oh,
for letting me share that.
no, thank you for sharing. What an outstanding, inspirational story. And I have to say, won't he do it?
Airtime. This is a panel discussion about NC State, right?
It is.
Let's
It is.
stay in order. But he'll do it.
Okay,
He'll
put me
do
back.
it. He'll do it. And
Oh,
somebody said, yes, he will.
yes, he
Y'all
will.
better quit.
Yeah, yes, we know. We
Y'all
know.
better quit.
All right. So Jim,
Yes.
do you mind sharing some of your most memorable experiences
Sure.
from back? You said 1966
Yeah.
is
What I'll do is talk a little bit about the landscape of what things were like back then.
please.
They're probably not even imaginable, but when I came to state in '66, I think there were somewhere between 150 to 200 Black students on campus,
Mm-hmm.
6 of which were women. Now,
Six.
6.
Wow. They
Uh,
they,
and
they were
you
able.
talk to
Whew.
them about what their experience was like with all these guys around. But there were no Black athletes other than Irwin Holmes, who had played tennis in 1956. And you may have read his story in the Alumni magazine
Yes.
when he came to state and ended up being team captain. But we did have 2 athletes that I remember walk on. Marcus Martin walked onto the football team and later got a scholarship. And Al Hartley walked on the basketball team, I think in '67. And he ended up being team captain before he left. Um,
Wow.
so things started changing fairly rapidly. And I've been around the university since that time and have served on several committees and boards. And um, I'm just astounded at all the changes that have been made in terms of the students and the personnel that work at the university, teach at the university. Um, when we arrived, there were no social outlets for Black students on campus. I think the thought was that when we got here, we would just do what everybody else did, uh,
Mm-hmm.
which of course we wanted something a little bit different. So we finally were able to get a facility on campus somewhere over on East Campus near the radio station, the old radio station. And it was a facility where we fixed up and we call it the ghetto.
Ooh, yikes.
It was
Okay.
a place where we could go and gather and interact with each other and play music and dance and do whatever, and just socialize with one another. So that was kind of the first step. And the student union was another place where we gathered. And of course, they had pool tables back then. And, the Brickyard was a popular meeting place. They put grills out on certain evenings, and we would get a steak from the student union and go out and cook our own steaks on the Brickyard.
Wow.
Hillsborough Street was semi-integrated. Some places you could go and some places you could not. And that's one thing that we did. I think Jim Lee, who was a grad student, led us in picketing some of the facilities on Hillsborough Street that didn't allow Black students to participate, either buy clothes or come in and eat.
Mm-hmm.
But that did rapidly change. And by the time I left in 1970, I think things were relatively well integrated on campus. I lived in Sullivan Hall my first year on the 10th floor. It was a brand new building and they didn't have the elevator working yet. So for
Yikes.
a whole semester, we had to hike up 10 flights of stairs to get to our rooms.
That's commitment, Jim.
In terms of academics, we had to learn to depend on each other.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have some of the advantages of people that had legacy family. Um, I think it was the second semester of my freshman year before I discovered what poop was. And I don't know if that they still use that term. Nothing to do with a dog. Um,
Poop. Yikes.
I see a puzzle on your face. Poop
Yeah.
was what you could get before a test. In other words, you could get the old test from that professor and see what questions he was asking. And there was a lot of that floating around. I don't know why they called it poop, but we didn't have access to that initially. And gradually, we began to make friends with each other and friends with other people where we could tap into some of these study groups and study resources. And I think that's probably true today. People have to rely on each other in college, but some people are stronger in some things than others, and you kind of have to work together. I was talking with my classmate Fred Johnson yesterday. He actually taught somebody to swim so they could graduate. You had to be able to swim a lap across the pool before you could graduate. And,
Yeah,
for some
it
of
was.
us, that was a real challenge. So.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. It's so interesting when I was kind of listening to kind of the things that you did because there wasn't, a robust social outlet. The the place that you went to kind of hang out and fellowship. Did you say it was called the ghetto?
That's what we named it. Yeah.
Yep.
Holy, okay. So that was the equivalent of the CC when I was at NC State, the cultural center. That's where we used to go and gather and dance and fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice, very nice. Well, I'm impressed that you made it through, particularly having to climb those 10 flights of stairs at Sullivan.
Well, it kept us in shape, maybe. But
I'll say.
no,
All right,
all of these progressions were not easy. Some we had to fight for,
absolutely.
maybe most. But those are not the things I remember. I remember the outcomes and the good times that we had. And it was a long time before we got the Alumni Association, Black Alumni Association, off the ground. I know Fred Johnson started keeping a list back in '76 of the Black graduates, and we tried to keep in touch with each other, but I had very difficult time trying to get people to come back.
Mm.
They talk about the bad times now. I remember the grins on their faces and the parties that they were at, but they claimed they had such a bad time. But I'm glad to see Black Alumni is thriving the way it is today and becoming a force for supporting the university.
Well, thank you. I think in large part we're able to do that because you blazed the trail. So thank you. We stand on the shoulders of all the panelists tonight. So thanks for the feedback, but we're mirroring and building on what you said. Okay, so let's move to the Becktons. Diane and or Elwood, would you like to share your experiences? I think Elwood may be on the road now.
Oh, this is Diane.
Hello, Diane. Would you like to share some of your most memorable experiences at NC State?
Yes. Thank
Thank
you all very much. And again, hello to everybody. I'm so glad that Black alumni since 1979 when we were
organized, is
organized is
alive and
alive
fully
and fully
functioning.
functioning.
Um,
Um,
I
I
started
started
really
really
enjoying the
enjoying
state. Did I
and
need to mute this? When
when
Shirley
Shirley
Caesar,
Caesar,
no, no,
no,
no,
no,
no.
no,
Diane.
Shirley Chisholm had been
been
nominated
nominated
to run for president in
in
1972. Can you hear me?
Yes, there was a bit of an echo. I wasn't sure if you were logged into maybe two devices.
Elwood is trying to get me on his device. Okay.
Okay.
You hear me now?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
You're fine,
Okay.
Diane.
Are you up loud enough? Elwood?
Yeah.
Everything's great till Beckton came on.
We can hear you beautifully.
Okay. Well, when Shirley Chisholm came to NC State in 1972, and she was in Congress, first African American woman to be elected to Congress of the United States. And there she was on the campus of NC State University talking to a sea of Black students and faculty. And as a matter of fact, the whole university body. And when she stepped off the stage, she came directly to a group of students who were there
and she just put her arms around us and
Wow.
said, I know what you're going through, but you will make it through. And that has stayed with me for always, to hear this woman who was fighting through all kinds of obstacles and winning, to say that we would make it through. So that was one of my most memorable moments there. And also seeing Roberta Flack, Stevie
Uh-oh.
Wonder, Michael, the Jackson Five, who else was there? Fifth Dimensions, all of those celebrities and wonderful singers who we were able to, because we had a Black man in administration who was, what was Shackelford's first name? Who was Shackelford. He was in administration and he worked directly with Black students. And we were able to get name brand shows and on for homecoming events.
Mhm.
And pretty much like Jimmy said, we got our work, we did, we knew what we were there for, but there were some good times and some monies being spent that we don't often spend toward some events now. And I would like to see more funding go to our African American programs. And here's Elwood. He's not going to be long.
No.
Well, let's see here. Memorable events at state. Like I said, I had a lot more positive ones than negative ones. One of the things that we did was to start the first African American fraternity there at NC State, Alpha Phi Alpha, and I was on the charter line there, Eta Omicron chapter, and but it all started with Dr. A.M. Witherspoon, Gus Witherspoon. You know, we have the Cultural Center named after him. And he was a great man, great professor, great fraternity brother. I mean, he was just, a great person. And he always loved his students. He was a great mentor. And, we're glad that they did name a building after him because he was worthy of such recognition. Then, as I said, I've had 2 stunts at NC State. The second time was when I came back after finishing law school. And I came back to be an attorney for the university. And what we did then on that second time around was work with mostly Thomas Conway, Dr. Thomas Conway, who later became assistant or vice chancellor at Fayetteville State, and then actually chancellor at Elizabeth City State University.
Yep.
And we cooperated on a couple of ventures there at NC State. One was the peer mentor program that we started there at the university. And another was we had a academic scholarship, academic dinner, where those students who had attained a grade point average of 3.0 or more, we celebrated them at a dinner. And of course, Diane and I, we formally started the Black Alumni Society in 1979, and I became its first president. So like I say, a lot more positive thing than negative. One negative thing that I will admit, I was taking this course, genetics course, and I was doing real well. It was a course that I really liked a whole lot. But the professor, after 2 or 3 tests, he did not believe that I was, in the top of the class, the top 2 or 3 in the class. And now, sometimes when I would have a question, I would go ask the teacher's assistant who taught, the class, much of the time. And one day I was talking to him after class, and as I was leaving him, the professor saw me, and he went there and accused the TA of giving me the test answers.
Wow.
And I mean, that was, he didn't believe that I could do it that well in his class. And I tell you what, he did say a couple of racist things while in the class that really, burned me up inside. I didn't say a whole lot at the time, but that was really screwy the way that professor was. He was a racist professor.
Well, I'm really sorry to hear that you. I'm sure he continued to watch you be successful in life, so I'm sure he's hating, the way he behaved.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So let's pivot a little bit. So you've had a chance to share some of your memorable experiences, and it's interesting. One of the themes that I'm starting to pick up tonight is, this whole notion of mentorship, fellowship, community. So I just want to talk about, how important community was to your experience at NC State. And let's just hear some stories about that. So if we can take it back from the top, Pat, I would love to hear from you first, just about, you shared a really, really powerful story about how you were able to, you set an aspiration for yourself, and before you knew it, an opportunity presented itself and you were able to strike. So I would love to hear about, who was involved in that scenario that kind of helped you navigate that situation, who was your sounding board at NC State, what type of community was in place to support your progression?
Thank you, Sam. I have to say that mentorship is critical. Coming from another world, I'd say the other side of the track. And as I said earlier, I should not even be here tonight on this panel with all of these dignitaries. Do you guys hear them? But I'm here, and I think I'm here for a reason. And I think I'm here because someone really needs to hear my story. If it had not been for mentors in my life, I would not be here. The story I shared with you about the office being upstairs, it was a lady there. I'm not even gonna call her name because some of you probably would know her, but she took me under her wing. She saw something in me that I didn't even see. And I'm so glad she did. So sometimes you have to just take your hands off of yourself and allow others to embrace you, and to open your eyes to things that you don't even see possible. Mentors, and when I think about it, I met her 30 years ago, and she's now my life coach. She is one of my best friends. Even when I have a down moment, and that's one thing about mentors, connections, bonds that you build. It don't just last while you're at the university. These are things that you can take with you for a lifetime. If you're having a rough moment, reaching back to someone you met 30 years ago. When I heard Miss Beckton talking about Shirley Chisholm, and how she came and embraced them and said, you can make it. You know what? That meant a lot to her. But my friend telling me I can make it, when I was in that dry cleaning plant and folks telling me I could do better, I needed that. Because if they didn't give that to me, I'd probably be still where I was. So that the community of mentors that I'm in, she's just one. I have several here now. After 30 years, you would hope I would have more than just that one, but I have several. And it's because of them and their shoulders that I stood on, that I am where I am today. But I'm not all that, but guess what? Yes, I am. Yes, I know that's right. I am somebody. Even
Yeah,
when I was working in dry cleaning, even when I was a laundry worker, I was somebody. And that's why I have such a passion for the housekeepers. Those working in dining, they are somebody. And they need some of us to reach back to them, inspire them, motivate them, let them know that things don't have to be as they are. You are valuable. You are somebody. And that's what I had in my life that elevated me years and years and years. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on, but that
No,
my
no.
story, it's my story. All of us have our stories, but that's my story. I wouldn't change anything. And just let me just say this one thing. When I worked, I'm gonna tell you what, I was the best darn dry cleaner there was. I could clean them clothes, I could press them pants, I could do it, right?
Right.
But that mentality, being the best that I could be, when I got my first office job, and I asked her, why did you hire me out of all these qualified people, degrees? You know, why would you get me? She said, I'm gonna tell you what tilted the scale. When you told me that even though you were a dry cleaner, that you had made up your mind that you would be the best darn dry cleaner that there was, that's who I wanted in my office. So no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, you'll be the best at it. And you need to take something from every step, every place you are in your life. Take something from it and build on it. And you will never know where you might be. So thank you for letting me go on my tangent.
No. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, I completely agree with what you're saying. What you're really saying is when you pair your talent plus your hard work plus a mentorship, you're bound to get opportunities. And that's
you can't lose.
Yep. Fantastic.
Yep.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then Jim, do you mind sharing a little bit about the importance of community when you were coming through at NC State? You touched on it a little bit earlier.
But community was everything to us. In terms of mentors, we had great mentors in high school. And they were, I think they're responsible for getting us to state. But once we got here, we were on our own. I said, my first roommate, Eric Moore, is on the call, as well as my friend Frederick Johnson. And we all had to band together and push each other and pull each other and help each other and do whatever it took to get through. We just didn't have the sense of community. We had to build that sense of community while we were here. We didn't have Gus Witherspoon and Lawrence Clark and Wandra Hill and all the names I've heard over the years that have come about to mentor and support students since we graduated. But I'm sensing that there is a much stronger sense of community on campus today of folks that can help each other and pull each other through. I know each of the colleges has a diversity coordinator, and they keep changing the name, but there's someone in each of the colleges that can help mentor and advise and guide people through, which I'm sure is very helpful to the students if they'll take advantage of those opportunities, and I hope that they do.
Yes, I do think that the university has recognized that there is a need to provide more support to our Black and Brown students. So I'm really happy to hear about those diversity committees as well. I think most people on the call probably know that the university had its first racial equity summit a couple weeks ago. And the university, I think, is finally doubling down, just really making it plain and admitting that we're not where we'd like to be. Maybe we're not even where we should be, but the university is committed to making sure that there's significantly more equity across the campus. So stay tuned. I'm really, really excited about that as I think about NC State's future. And then I'm sorry.
One thing, I've served for about 15 years now on the Chancellor's African American Advisory Committee.
Yeah.
And I can tell you how much effort goes in. It's not an easy task. To both academically and culturally bring the university along, particularly in the the political environment that we exist in.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very encouraged by the things mentioned the diversity coordinators in each college, and I know that there's special efforts. There's special efforts to assist. Another name that comes to mind is, well, I said it came to mind as quick as it came in, it went out. She was, I think, vice provost for multicultural affairs. I'll think of a name before we get off the call. But there was a little
Tracy Ray.
Tracy Ray, thank you.
Thank you, Courtney.
There was a lot of effort that she put into helping Black students assimilate once they arrived on campus. And I think there were courses you automatically got enrolled in. It was a 100 level course that would help you learn study habits and learn the facilities that are available to you on campus. And as I watched her presentation, I sat back and thought about how we had to teach ourselves
Mm-hmm.
what students are being taught in their freshman year today on hopefully trying to be successful at the university. So a lot of effort goes into that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for reflecting on that. You're absolutely right. And that, sometimes we get a little bit frustrated, right? Because we really want to see action happen overnight or in 6 months. And we have to remember that we're working against a culture with systems and policies that have been in place for a really, really long time. So, it takes time and it takes work and it takes the effort of all of us. Okay, so we have about 10 minutes left. And I wanted to make sure before we wrapped up that we touched on one thing. So we've talked a little bit about, some things, some challenges that we've all faced in the past at NC State. And we've talked a little bit about how the university is preparing itself for the future. So what I'd love to hear from the panelists as we close tonight is, I would love for you to speak directly on, what is it that makes you hopeful for the future of NC State? So why don't we start with the Becktons first? Diane and Elwood, would you care to share a few minutes about what makes you hopeful for the university's future?
This is Diane, and yes, I am hopeful. I was hopeful when back in the 70s, we had thoughts of a world changing very quickly, but it didn't. There were some good times. You could not have told me that those flower children on NC State's campus who were sunbathing in the summertime and passing out flowers and listening to rock music and hugging and telling us about and marching with you when things were going bad. I just knew the time had come and that we were going to get together in this world, not only as state students, but, say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud. Those were the chants and rallying around things that, when Kent State fiasco, we rallied with white students, foreign students, everybody. I mean, I thought we were changing, but now I don't know where the flower children are. I don't know if they are looking back and saying, we need to recognize that diversity and systemic racism is still an issue in America, because I don't see much of them anymore. And I say, wow, what happened to them? I thought we were really on the right track back then. But I tell you what, I'm still hopeful, and I still believe that we are going to get there, and that NC State is going to begin to listen more and see us more as we begin to change. Elwood?
Very nice. Thank you, Diane. Elwood, what are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, I'm hopeful. But I've learned over the years that things move very slowly. I was glad to see during the summertime when Floyd was killed, how people started protesting about the racial situation here in America. It was a wake-up call for many people, because a lot of people have become complacent and complicit and just believe that everything was all right. But everything is not all right, you know, when it comes to us Black people. And that shone a light that, you know, hey, we still have a long way to go in this country. We made progress, but we still have a long way to go. And people just need to wake up and see that, open their eyes to what is really going on, you know, in this world. And of course, President Trump and what he did over the last 4 years has not helped, but in certain respects, it has made the contrast greater, so that people can see that, you know, that there still need to be change in this country.
Yeah, everything is amplified now. I mean, a lot of the issues that already existed have really, really come to the surface. So thank you for sharing that. Pat.
You know, now, I see that a couple of people on this call that I know have a lot to contribute. I know Eric Moore is up here. I know Rhonda McFarland. I don't know if they got an opportunity to bring them in, but anyway, I know I'm glad to see that they're up here on this call.
Thank you very much. I know I'm not able to see who's on, so thank you for that, Elwood. So Pat, would you like to share what you're hopeful for? What are you excited about in terms of NC State's future?
I am by nature a positive, hopeful type person. I believe that if you live with a hopeless, angry, or defeated attitude, then that would be what you live. That would be who you are, because negative minds are closed minds. Minds simply refuse to see what is available. They never focus on what isn't right, but what isn't happening, and on the lack of opportunity. So my thing is, what I say to myself and to others, keep your momentum. Someone mentioned earlier, success doesn't happen overnight, but just keep your eye on what you're hoping for, what you are looking toward, and don't look back. Because optimism is the faith that leads to achievement. I remember Helen Keller said, nothing can be done without hope and confidence. And when I think about it, after what the university has gone through, all of us has gone through with this pandemic, in our personal life, the campus community, after everything that we've been through and still going through, we are still standing. So for me, NC State has been here at least 30 years because it brought me in. And I believe, just be hopeful, stay dedicated, and don't give up. NC State University will be around a lot longer.
Thank you for reflecting, Pat. And Jim, would you like to close us out? Like, what makes you hopeful? What are you looking for? What would you like to see in the future?
You said what makes me hopeful about NC State?
Yes.
NC State is a great university. I feel a sense of community with the university as a whole. I guess that's in my background, is I tend to attach myself and work hard for organizations. And I think I got that honestly from my parents, but I've seen NC State grow in stature The rankings of its colleges have gone straight up. The College of Management, I know, College of Engineering is getting to be one of the top colleges, engineering colleges in the country. And I had such a great sense of pride turning on the news every morning for 300 and some days, saying that NC State graduate Christina Cook is going to talk to us from the International Space Station.
Right.
And some of you may or may not know, but they had a one-on-one with Christina in the Tally Center. They had about 1,500 high school kids to come in and chat with an astronaut in space. And those are the type of things that kind of blow my mind away. We've had people that have been African Americans that have been chairman of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission for the whole country. We've got brigadier generals
Yep.
in the service and retired. I've met the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff at campus events. It's been very inspirational for me to be associated and affiliated with the university. And I'm particularly proud of the way the Black alumni has grown from that short list of a dozen or so people that we had back in the 70s to, I think they told me about 11,000 today.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I was really proud on the day of giving last month, the way the Black alumni stepped up and knocked it out the park. And we've got to pay our share to get a seat at the table. And I think we're starting to do that. So I want to thank you for your leadership, Sam. I see Stephanie Cogdale's on the line. She's been a great leader in the Black Alumni Society. And I don't mean to omit anyone else, but thank you for your leadership. And I personally do appreciate it.
You're welcome, and thank you so much for the feedback. So we are at time, and I just feel like we're sitting, in our living rooms, just kind of hanging out over a couple glasses of wine. I could continue this discussion with you for another hour, but there's so many activities that are happening this week for Red and White Week, so we need to wrap up. But I just wanted to thank each and every one of you as panelists for just candidly sharing your reflections tonight. I think this is the kind of conversation that we need to keep alive. The generations of future scholars need to hear our voices, and they need to understand NC State from a historical context and really understand how past generations have blazed the trail. I love the comments I think that came from Diane today about how important the voice of the student is. And I don't know if we have any students on the line, but I just want to encourage the students to keep doing what they're doing, to keep raising issues when things don't seem to be right. Raise the issue to, through the appropriate channels. That's the only way that we can impact change and change the culture for where we'd like it to be. So I hope this is the first of many fireside chats that we'll have. I'd like to thank you, Pat and Jim and Elwood and Diane, for your time tonight. I'd also like to thank the Alumni Association for helping us pull this thing together. And I look forward to another discussion. So thank you for being leaders leaving legacies. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good
Thank you.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
Oh,